Hi, it's Ileana here at Awakening Cosmic Reality Show, and today we have Rochelle, the Australian SSP asset, with us today. How are you, Rochelle?
I'm very well, thank you, Liana. How are you?
I'm good. It's nice to have you here.
It is. And we were just saying how clear the reception is to do this talk, so it's really good.
Yeah, sometimes they mess with us.
Oh, definitely. Sometimes it's really crackly and you can't barely hear each other, but it's just like you're in the same country as me at the moment. It's really good.
Yeah. Today is could be exceptional for our chat.
It's good. Obviously, we're having some good spirits around us to actually be able to get this chat out today because we've been talking about doing this chat for some time now. So it's really good that we're actually getting to do it.
Yes, definitely. You and I have been texting on Facebook, and we've had one or two Skype chats on video as well. So we got to know each other a little
Yeah,
bit that
yeah,
way.
that's good. We've been speaking on Facebook now for about 12 months, but I think we've been friends on Facebook for a little over 16 months. So it's really good to actually, get to know the people that you're connecting with and who are experiences and who has similar experiences and recalls. So it's been really good. It's actually, and we found our connection also through the Tesseract projects.
Yes. I mean, I had done the Mary Rodwell type regression, hypnosis regression with the corridors and the doorways technique
Yep,
about
yep,
in mid 2016, 2017. And I always had memory recall of this beautiful blonde woman with long blonde hair, kind of like blue eyes, 5'9" in height, playing the piano at some kind of in a library in this Naval Observatory
yeah,
through the regression, hypnosis regression, through these corridors and doorways technique. Um, and 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 I saved images of this. I found likeness images on the internet, and
yeah.
the piano was like a grand piano, but it was kind of like whitish white blue, and the woman was wearing a dress. So I had this saved in a file called Rochelle. I had the name. I had Rochelle.
It's It's ironic because we were talking about hypnosis techniques. I think this would have been nearly 4 months ago now,
Yeah.
and I had said to you, I want to try to do self hypnosis or at least try to do remote viewing. And you had sent me. I had actually watched Mary Rodwell on the Australian Skies to do a hypnosis regression, and then you had sent me through your hypnosis regression, which you had created. And you'd sent that through to me to have a listen to. And between your hypnosis regression and Mary Rodwell's, I'd sort of come and figured out one for myself. So, and it was a similar thing. So I'd relax and I'd gone up a flight of stairs, and as I was counting up to 10, I would, say that I'm going deeper into hypnosis. And then once I got at the top of the stairs, there was a door, and behind that door, I'd envision a corridor of doors, and each door had a number of on them which represented my age. And it was quite ironic because the door that popped up was door 6. I think it was door 6. I have it written down somewhere. And I went into door 6, and then there was all this clockwork, like mechanical blues, beautiful vibrant blues and purples, and it was just like the inner workings of a clock. And then I'd seen a figure of a rabbit, and then instantly got Alice in Wonderland programming. And then the rabbit came, and I could see it as in a 3D version of a white rabbit. So I'd exited that room, and the next morning I instantly messaged you and said, "This is what happened. This was really vivid." This was just one of the sessions that I'd done for myself, and it was just this instant connection. And you started sending me all these photos of all these images that you had pulled out of my head because you had gone in and checked and seen all these images, and then it just all fell together, didn't it? It was just like you knew instantly what it was all about, because I actually got onto the internet to search up Alice in Wonderland programming, and what came up was your video on Awakening Cosmic Reality Show of the Area 51, the Alice in Wonderland programming.
Yeah, and looking glass technology of looking
Yeah,
backwards in time,
yeah,
the near present and into the future. So, and also you discussed with me Project Pegasus, which is also with time travel.
yes, yes. That's we. I know I can't pronounce his last name, Andrew Bazingo or something like that. I can't pronounce his last name, but I just read an article that one of the experiencers had posted on Facebook and tagged me in last night in regards to Project Pegasus, and I just thought, oh wow, this is just, I actually sort of wondered whether or not Pegasus was renamed the Tesseract Project.
Well, I mean, it could be, and also the Lazarus Project, which is like
Yeah.
Looking Glass. Lazarus is similar to Project Looking Glass. The Lazarus Project happens on Earth and also on Pluto, off world.
Okay.
So,
So can you explain, obviously, for the people that are going to be listening to this interview, what actually the Tesseract project is and what the Lazarus project is? If just because people will not be familiar. I mean, there's going to be people that have looked up the Pegasus project, but not so much look into the other two.
yeah, sure. The Lazarus Project is pretty much similar to the Looking Glass technology, but Lazarus Project is more with your mind, just purely with your mind, not sitting in some kind of a chair to augment
Hmm.
your psychic abilities, but you're given some kind of drugs, right? To
Yeah,
alter your left and right hemisphere of your brain to make it a
yeah.
supercomputer. So with the Lazarus Project, you use your augmented psychic abilities. You've been drugged, and you use your augmented psychic abilities because now your brain is like a supercomputer. So you can look either backwards in time, the
Mm.
near present, like near future, or in the future itself, like more distantly in the future. So that's
So
the
sorry. So it's like the natural organic ability of the person, but they enhance it with the drugs.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yes.
So that's kind of what you do with the Lazarus Project. So it's very similar to the Looking Glass technology, where they actually reverse engineered extraterrestrial, like these columns and stuff from tablets, Sumerian
Yes.
tablets, and they built this electromagnetic machine, and they had columns and everything with it, and it uses sort of like based on anti-gravity technology, and it uses different vibrational frequencies and some kind of matter, energetic matter, to power the machine. And then you're placed in a chair, you're hooked up to a visor into this machine, to the looking glass machine, and with it your psychic abilities are augmented, so you can look backwards in time, the near present, and the future.
Yeah. So, and now the Tesseract project is, I'll let you explain that also, because actually you have, like when you did your Alice in Wonderland programming, you actually have images of you as a young girl standing in front of one of these technologies.
Yeah, that was actually with the reptilian abductions near the
Yeah.
Rostov base underground. I was actually listening to Denny Hunt's first interview with me. And back then the hypnosis sessions weren't perfect. So it was actually the Rostov underground bases in the former Soviet Union, not US bases underground. That was
Okay.
a little
Yeah.
foggy at that time because I was just starting to get memories back.
Hmm.
Because the underground bases in the US near the Sierra Madre Mountains, that was the Monarch program actually. Um,
And you have actually mapped out, like on Google Earth and stuff like that. I mean, you've mapped out the bases on Mars. You've mapped out bases on Earth, and the ones that you actually have recalled. So these bases are actually real, and they've been backed up by other experiences also. So just for people who would like to go back to your videos, just to sort of catch up, I guess, on where you're at now and how you're going with your recalls as well, still now.
yeah, my recalls are more clear now because the
Mm,
hypnosis parameters are different. I'm no longer doing purely the shamanic past life regression. I'm doing the full on Mary Rodwell hypnosis that I learned from Joe H. Slate's book about reincarnation. So I'm doing the corridors and the doorways technique, what you described.
Yeah. Yeah, it
Um,
was really good to use that one because like you are actually being drawn. Like I was drawn to a certain age, which was like I said, well, you have your ages on each door in the corridor, and I didn't just walk through a door and pick a number. I was actually drawn to a number. So it's really quite easy to do, but in the same sense, you have to be able to get into that mind frame to relax to be able to get it. Because I haven't actually, since I've done a lot of the regressions, I've more been able to sort of remote view now as well, but I don't actually have control of the remote viewing. Like I haven't done any training in remote viewing, so sometimes I don't know whether I'm remote viewing or whether I'm just seeing images that have happened in the same sense as remote viewing, if that makes any sense.
yeah, because there's also remote sensing where you're
That's the
actually,
word I was looking for.
yeah, you're using your natural psionic abilities or psychic abilities because you're a teleporter, you're a natural teleporter. For teleporting yourself and other people through teleportation gateway portals that you open up with your mind, like natural portals that happen in nature, not the mechanical made portals, which you can open as well, like the Clockworks devices that I had seen in your memories in the United States Naval Observatory that's actually in Washington, D.C., so it's not too far away from me. And I have memories of the hypnosis regression of being there and you being there and you being trained on the piano, on the grand
Mm,
piano, to open the Clockworks device to activate that Clockworks device to open a portal, a teleportation portal to take you and me somewhere on Earth. That was a training operation, and also you opening time travel portals to travel backwards or forwards in time. And that's basically the Tesseract project. But I remember opening Star Gateway portals, the natural ones, when I was in the Monarch program near the Sierra Madre Mountains, and also somewhere near
yes.
California in the woods. So that's what I had kind of mixed up in the original regression session when I did the interview with Denny, because I said the reptilians had abducted me in the U.S. underground bases. No, that was near the Rostov area,
Yeah.
militarized zone, and so former Soviet Union. So that was mixed up. And back then everything was kind of jumbled. I didn't really know how to sort through the regression hypnosis sessions. Now that I have a better understanding of how it works, it's much easier to have more clarity. So, because I was listening to that first interview with Denny where I talked about my 60 and back in the secret space program through the quantum leap time travel dilation. And one of the things was very off in terms of the reptilian abductions and the monarch program that I was in. So,
It's
and
it's it's sometimes really hard because like I have only just started to recall things in the last 8 or 9 months. So, it's not like things come back. I mean, everybody is different. So some people's memories might come back really vivid with sounds and smells. Other people's memories might come back, I suppose, a little bit like mine. They're all over the place. Like I have not actually set a timeline. I don't actually know where I have been, or like I know what I've been doing in the recalls because obviously I've remembered them, wrote them down, or recorded them in some way. But it's when you're first starting to remember, it's super confusing. So people have to understand that we still work on those memories as time goes by, and little things can jolt things that make us go, okay, so that actually wasn't that base, it was this base. Now I know exactly where it was. So it's still trying to put puzzle pieces together.
exactly, exactly. And I really got excited when talking to you on Facebook because I had never seen you, like when we first started talking, I'd never seen images of you, so I didn't know what you looked like at all. But
Yeah.
I had a file on my computer named Rochelle with the grand piano at some kind of a naval
Well, there's no
observatory.
coincidences. I don't believe that there are coincidences. Things all happen for a reason. So
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
quite it was
yeah.
quite ironic, and it was just like, holy, wow.
Yeah, and I remembered walking these long hallways, these corridors at the Naval Observatory, and going into a library or some kind of a study room that had these ornate, antique-like furnishings and this huge, kind of like an auditorium library setting. And it had the
Mm.
Clockworks device, the time travel teleportation Clockworks device, and a grand piano, and a woman sitting there in a white bluish dress playing the piano, some kind of
And it's
through. Yeah.
sorry, it's quite ironic because we've done some extensive searching in regards to the Naval Observatory, and we haven't been able to see a great deal of photos of the Naval Observatory. We've reached out to a few people to see if they can help in regards to any information about the Tesseract project and the Lazarus project and surrounding the Naval Observatory, and we really haven't got any help, really, have we? So we've been doing what we can ourselves within our regressions, and with looking at photos, well, what limited photos there are online in regards to the Naval Observatory. And you actually reached out to them too, didn't you?
Yeah, I did email them saying, "Have you ever
Mm.
had a grand piano in the library?" And they never replied back to me. But
So,
what I find interesting is that the windows, right? The big glass windows that are like on top of the library, they're similar to the glass windows that are in the image of the woman with the blonde hair playing the piano. And
yes,
yeah,
they are.
the photos of the Naval Observatory have those types of panorama type windows, like a whole row of them at the top of
Mm.
the kind of like where the roof is to the library, and same in the images of the woman playing the piano. And when talking to you, when and I finally asked you after half a year, what do you look like? And you said almost 5'9", blonde with this pixie-like face. And you sent me a
Yeah.
picture, and I'm like, that's the woman. That's the woman in the observatory. Oh my goodness.
I think we were I think we were both pretty excited about this because I've always been drawn to your energy, but there was never really sort of picked up what the energy was, but it was always such a beautiful, soft energy that you have.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember you asked me, well, have we ever met when being SSP assets, secret space program
Yeah.
assets? And I said, I'm not sure. I have a vague
Mm.
memory of you, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, and it wasn't until you got some photos and you were like, "Oh my gosh," and I was excited because like I did approach you about a memory that I had of a young girl wearing it's almost like a lemon colored dress, and I said I thought it was you, and the energy I got, I thought it was you, but I think when you looked in for me, you said no, but that was you, and I thought so. I was seeing myself walking down the corridor of the observatory, and like I'm in Australia. So it just goes to show that being an asset, they can pick you up anywhere, and they can either teleport you or take you in a craft to anywhere. I mean, obviously that we have the technology to go to Mars. We have the jump rooms. We have the teleportation devices at the Tesseract and the Lazarus projects and Pegasus projects and Project Paperclip and whatnot. So the technology is there. So I don't have I mean, my background is not military. I mean, my grandparents and my father's parents, who he was adopted, so his step parents were in the military. Um, but apart from that, like, I don't really have much, background in any of this. So for me to work this out, it was a little bit like a wow, and it was great to find somebody who could remember me because I have had my first recalls were of Penny Bradley and James Rink.
Hmm. Yeah, and the recall that I had of you in the United States Naval Observatory is that the piano that you were playing has these frequencies, sound vibrational frequencies that
Yeah.
activate the Clockworks device for it to open a portal which you, with your psychic augmented abilities, you have to maintain that portal, that it so it stays open, and that it actually does not dissipate, because your genetic coding, your DNA sequencing, you have the natural ability to teleport.
Yeah. And the funny thing is too is I've always had a love for pianos. We never had a piano growing up, but we had music in our family, but not. We had people come over and play guitar and stuff like that. And I'm actually a musical person. I play by ear, so I don't actually, and I'm not actually able to read notes. So I know in comments on Facebook on the post that you put up in regards to these projects, there was people asking what's the music that she plays. Well, I don't recall. And like in this life, I can say I don't play the piano, but I can play by ear. I do love the piano. But yeah, when the lady asked what the music was, I was just like, I'd love to know myself. But I'm guessing that they don't let us know because we could use that here, and we could use that to obviously open up portals as well.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I just remember them training us very, very hard to open the portals and
Mm,
with our mind, whether it was through the Clockworks devices or just us being drilled into our heads. You must open these portals in the Naval Observatory and in the Monarch programs. Your brain has been augmented, your psychic abilities are through the roof, your psionics. Now focus your mind, focus all your inner bodily soul energy and open these portals, and you must sustain them so you can walk through
yeah.
them and take things with you and teleport others with you along the way.
And it's exhausting because, and talking about the day where you said they induce us with drugs as well to help us. I wake up frequently feeling drugged, all the time actually. And it's nearly every single night. And we did speak to Peter the Insider. Both of us, we got the chance to have a chat to him, and he did mention that yes, these are very real projects, and yes, they are drugging you. And because I didn't understand why I wake up feeling drugged and exhausted. And, I mean, with your autoimmune disease, and I have two kids I raise on my own, it's exhausting to just get through the day, let alone be waking up drugged and feeling disorientated and have no energy to get just through the day. So it was great that Peter was able to calibrate that with us and or validate it with us and let us know that yes, this is not just things you're seeing, because I sent him the photos and he immediately wanted to speak to me, and then you reached out and you also spoke with Peter too.
Yeah, I spoke with Peter. There are actual disclosure TV shows called Warehouse 13 and The Librarians, where they have these artifacts that are ancient and they're magical, and some of them are clockworks devices, pianos,
Yes,
anything Tesla technology, and that they're all
paintings.
yes, yes, that all of this is kept in these specialized warehouses or libraries under strict protection so it doesn't come out to the world and people don't discover that magic is real, that this advanced technology is real. So they can't use these clockworks devices to actually open portals and go through them and
Where
teleport.
Yeah, Warehouse 13 was a really good show. When you told me about that, I downloaded that and started watching. And, the amount of artifacts on there, and like you said, with the magic works that go with the artifacts, it's just unbelievable. So it's a really good series for people to download and watch. So, for anybody who's listening, it's Warehouse 13. And I think there was 3 seasons, 2 or 3 seasons to the
Yeah.
actual show.
Yes,
So
definitely.
and
Um,
paintings. There were paintings, there was pens, there's swords, these artifacts. There was just hundreds and thousands of artifacts. And you also covered about the Ark of Covenant as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. That there's three arcs of the Covenant. One is hidden still. It's under electromagnetic protection under the Temple of Solomon in Jerusalem. That's still there. It's not in the temple itself because that's ruins now, but it's deep under the temple and it's protected by electromagnetic fields, so nobody can access it. One is, I believe, possibly in Ethiopia from what I remote viewed, but it's sketchy. It's very
Hmm.
sketchy. And one is somewhere out in the Middle East. It's definitely out in the Middle East somewhere. And these Arks of the Covenant, they have technology inside. It's like a box, like a gold metal box of some sort, from what I could see, and other metallic substances. And it's kind of almost, it could be radioactive. And if
Mm.
you open it, there's technology to communicate with extraterrestrials. There's technology to terraform planets. There's all kinds of advanced technology inside these Arks of the Covenant. And I also remote viewed the Giza pyramids of Egypt, and that there's these some kind of telescopes with refractory rubies in it that actually decloak planets so you can see bases
Wow.
and other,
So that
structures.
so the do you think that the Ark of Covenant is a weapon, or is it, what do you think it is? I mean, it's obviously an artifact that, people have been trying to get their hands on.
I think that it's both a weapon and a communications device.
Yeah.
It's both because it's known, like there's artifacts inside that are sound frequency based, so it could demolish buildings, or it could literally make you deaf.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could ruin your
Because you did
eardrums.
you also wrote an article in regards to that on your Facebook page as well, Message from a Star Traveller. And that was a really good read. And it was something I'd never actually heard about before. So, and then all of a sudden I was flicking through YouTube, and this article, or this video came up in regards to the Covenant. And I was like, I must read that. And I wasn't even sure why I had to read it, but I had read your article and I was like, oh, okay, so this is really interesting. And that just, it reminded me of all the artifacts that I'd seen in Warehouse 13 in the show, and plus us talking about the piano and at the observatory, and just the amount of artifacts that are around the world is just phenomenal.
Yeah, for sure. And the Ark of the Covenant was protected by these sort of like warrior style priests wearing robes, and also the Knights of the Templar with swords and chainmail. And like I was having, like, when I was remote viewing that, or I should say remote sensing, because I don't follow the standard military style remote viewing protocols anymore. I remote sense things. I literally it's beyond even the third eye. Just my psychic energy reaches out towards some kind of a target, and I get biofeedback information coming back. It could be people, places, events, anything, objects, anything. And it doesn't have to be on Earth, it could be off world as well. Then the beauty of remote sensing is, like, you're on some kind of a subconscious level, you're actually aware of what target you're finding, what the thing is, without any other preconceptions of it. Because in remote viewing, the targets are blind, so you have no idea what you're looking at. With remote sensing, you sort of do. You have a little bit of
Yeah.
information, just your psychic abilities gather information quicker, and you sort of kind of are figuring out what your target is along the way. It's not biased in any way, shape, or form. It's just you have to be very clear about what information you're gathering in remote sensing, that it's not based on preconceived information, that you've done research about these, objects or people, events, or places. So it's still kind of a blind target, and it's not, because you kind of already know what you're looking at, because your psionics are amplified, and it's beyond remote
And
viewing.
And it also helps that you've obviously been there, so it's a familiarity to you. It's a
Oh,
big word for me at this time of day.
oh yeah, I actually lived in Israel. I lived in Jerusalem, and I saw the Temple of Solomon. And I was a kid. I was only like 6, 7 at the time, but I felt like there's this huge energy there. There's something more beyond that temple underground. But as a kid, I didn't really tap into that information. I'm like, there's something there, but it's not anything that I would want to touch or feel, or I, I would not want to unearth the Ark of the Covenant and die of radiation or whatever it emits, the energy. I just wouldn't. It's not something I want to touch physically or even find.
Yeah.
It's enough. It's
It's
there.
you know it's there, and yeah, it's obviously a very powerful artifact, and like I said, I'm surprised that it hasn't been recovered yet and removed or taken off planet. I'm sure that that will probably happen sooner or later because there's obviously people out there searching for these artifacts. Like, I mean, the Indiana Jones movies where he's going to look for the crystal skulls. So the crystal skulls are real. They're artifacts and they're ancient. I mean, there've been people who try to debunk these theories, but there is some very powerful artifacts there. Um, so what else have we got to cover today anyway? I'm sort of gone a blank.
Your assassin's training, that was interesting
Oh,
because
yes.
we both had kind of like channeling of our higher selves with Carl Mollison. And I
Mhm.
always, from the Mary Rodwell's corridors and doorways hypnosis technique, regression, I knew that I already knew that I had assassins training from the planetary corporations, or otherwise known as interplanetary corporate conglomerates. That's what Corey Good calls it, ICC on the Mars bases. I know that
Yep.
they had sent me out to get battle ready training, and to also be trained as an assassin with lasers, phasers, firearms, swords, battle axes, whatnot, knives. I know I had off-world training as an assassin outside the solar system, and also brutal training in Antarctica. In their underground tunnel systems. So I kind of knew that already. And Carl Mollison, when he channeled my higher self, and I brought up the Mars bases, Antarctica, and off world training, my higher self said through him, "Yes, you were brutally trained as an assassin to be a living weapon." And
Yes.
I don't know if I killed people or not, but I was sent in to infiltrate groups of people and to spy on them, both extraterrestrials and human groups, and incite riots, apparently.
Yes, I had a similar. Carl said similar with me also on my higher self channeling, and he reassured me that you did things that you didn't want to do, but obviously, good people controlled by bad people do as they're told. That's a motto that I've repeated on Facebook before. So it's not as though we're obviously assets. We've been trained to do these things, either against our will or mind fractured, and they've messed with us a lot to get us to do these things. He did a deep subconscious channeling for me, which he had mentioned a moment on Mars where I was to move like a colony of people, and I knew that the demise of these people was not good, that they were going to be slaughtered. And I was punished because I did not want to do that. I did not want to take these people to wherever they were going. And yeah, that was really hard to hear. So, these are things, it's not glorified. What's happened to all the experiences in the SSP, they've been seriously tortured. And Carl had said in the deep subconscious channeling, he goes that they basically tried to kill, or they nearly killed me on the spot. So they got to the point where I was about to give up, and then they released the hold on me so I could breathe again. And obviously, I had to take these people. So, um, and it's sort of it's crazy. It's people say, "Oh, we want to be in the SSP. We want to be, super soldiers, or we want to be going into space and stuff like that." A lot of people have been seriously damaged going through this, and through this, like I mean, you've been a programmer with where you speak about Kevin Trammell in the swimming pools, and so people must understand that this isn't anything that we're sitting here bragging about. We just want our stories heard. We want disclosure. We want the information to come out. So when we talk about being an assassin, because we copped a bit of backlash because of that post on Facebook, um, due to the assassin post that you put up in regards to me. And it was like we got backlash because we were glorifying it. We aren't glorifying anything. We're getting a story out.
Exactly. And I had looked into your memories in your mind, and I saw that you had been dressed in kind of like a black uniform and semi-smart suit, right? You had black long
Yeah,
hair, and you had this weapon. You had a weapon with you, a laser weapon, and you were wearing black boots, black hair, tall woman. And I actually had that same image in the Rochelle file on my computer from
yeah,
like
and then
3 years ago.
uh, and then I say, okay, we'll have a look at this from about 10 years ago, I think it was, and it was actually a dress up. I was dressed up as Celine from the Underworld movies for a dress up party, a friend of mine's 30th, and I sent it to you, and you're just like, wow,
Yeah.
that's you.
Yeah, and I sent you that image of
Mm,
the assassin woman in the black uniform, semi-smart suit with the energy weapon and with the black hair and then the boots, and you're like, yeah, that does look like me. And this was three
yeah,
years before I didn't know you, and I had a
and
file on
yeah.
you.
Well, we've only been friends on Facebook, I think, for nearly 2 years now, I think, because I had heard your interviews on James Rink's Super Soldier Talk on YouTube. So I decided to add you, and we didn't speak at first, and then I'd reached out a couple of times, and nothing sort of our conversations didn't really come of it. But I mean, we talk sometimes nearly every day now, which is amazing. Um, but when you sent back that image, I was just like, oh my God. This
Yeah,
is a big synchronicity.
it is, and I just had these vivid memory recalls through the hypnosis regression of you at the United States Naval Observatory, and then you as
Mhm.
an assassin. And I actually did some research. There's been a few scientists who actually were teachers, and then they were
Yes.
recruited into the United States Naval Observatory, and they put out papers, research material about the Tesseract projects, and they written books. So I don't
Yeah.
feel this is a coincidence at all.
No. I actually was having a look online last night. Just something triggered me to have a look at the Tesseract project and look into anything that was online in regards to the Tesseract project. And you actually posted another post on Facebook about the fellow who wrote a book in regard to the Tesseract. Would
Yeah.
you like to speak a little about that?
Well, actually, I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Oh, so yeah, I am too. I was only reading it. It wasn't an Andrew.
I'm not
So now
sure.
I'm
Yeah.
starting to think about Andrew Bazingo, I think
Basiago,
again
no,
from the
no. He was the chrononaut that,
Pegasus.
yeah, did the um, jump room Mars
Yes.
time travel. That's Andrew
Yeah.
Basiago. No, this guy was from the
That's right.
1800s. He was a teacher, a scientist, and he was disgraced because he was in a polygamous relationship. He was married to one
Mhm.
woman and he had an affair with another, and he at that time that was a crime, so he was jailed for 5 days, I believe. And then the director of the Naval United States Naval Observatory
That's
actually
right. He employed him.
pulled some favors,
Yeah.
pulled him, and the guy spent 2 years working at the United States Naval Observatory, wrote a book, and wrote some articles on the Tesseracts, and how that could relate to fourth and fifth dimensions
Yes.
and potential time travel and warp drive technology. But I'm drawing a blank on his name. Just
Yeah. I know he wrote a book. I
yeah.
should probably just have a quick look right now and see what his name was because I was actually looking at it last night
Uh,
and I thought,
I,
um,
I'm
sorry,
embarrassed
I'm
to
just trying to
say.
put you on loudspeaker. Are you there? Can you hear me still?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm embarrassed to say I'm drawing a blank, even where that
No.
file is saved. My
Because
goodness.
I still have it sitting here on. It was the New Era of Thought. Was that the book that here we go. So, A New Era of Thought is a non-fiction work written by Charles Howard Hinton, published in 1888, and reprinted in the 1900s by Sonnenschein and Co. This is the book. So, does Charles Howard Hinton?
Yes, that's him, all right. Yep, that's that.
And he wrote a book, and it says he mentioned this book in some of his articles, and Ruby Rucker's The Fourth Dimension. It
Yes.
is prefaced by Alice Bull and H. John Falk. A new era of thought is inspired by Plato's allegory of the cave and is influenced by the works of Immanuel Kant, Carl Friedrich Geiss, and Nikolai Lobachevsky. So the book has 230 pages, and it's actually got a picture here, The New Era of Thought. So yes, I was looking at that last night, and I was just having a bit of an interest in about the Tesseract. But he actually speaks about the Tesseracts, which is the fourth dimensions. It goes into the fourth dimensions.
Yeah, and the first book he wrote is called The Fourth Dimension, and the second book is The New Era of Thought. Charles Howard Hinton, yes, now I remember. I've had some issues with memory recently, some memory lapses, because my Hashimoto's encephalopathy is acting up, so please excuse my little lapse here.
No, that's
But
fine. That's okay. I think just on a regular basis that I also have memory lapse, and like I think I said to you, I thought our talk was yesterday, and you said no, I'm having my talk with Penny today, and I'm like, oh gosh. So yeah, and how are you going with your autoimmune disease? You want to talk about that a little bit, because some people don't actually understand it. You did put up a post about it in regards to your abductions.
yeah, I was abducted by reptilians from the age of 2 to 10, black drowser reptilians and Sharab Invictus, which I believe have some kind of a connection with the Dracos from the Orion system. And they had infected me with nanotechnology,
Mm-hmm.
which Peter the Insider calls femtites, because it's very small. It's nanotech, so it can't be detected by
Microscopes.
microscopes or MRI or anything of the type. It's in your bloodstream, it's in your brain, it's everywhere in the body. So it can't be detected by standard microscopes that we have, because it's nanotech. Not nanotech.
Yeah,
It's smaller than a nail, smaller than a hair.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
microscopic, beyond even microscopic. And basically, what it did is ruin my autoimmune system and part of my central nervous system, and I developed thyroid disorder at 15, which is called Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and that later morphed into Hashimoto's encephalopathy. And I was doing research that traumatic alien abductions and extraterrestrial, contact experiences, it looks like it's very pleasant and beautiful, but in reality, it's very ugly and very traumatic. And
Yeah.
they give you holographic mind inserts and brainwash you and do mind control manipulation on you and infect you with nanotechnology and give you viruses and other things. And then basically you have post-traumatic stress disorder and you have weird, rare autoimmune diseases. I also have hemiplegic migraines with paralysis, and that's a rare condition as well as the rare Hashimoto's encephalopathy, where basically my autoimmune system is eating itself up, eating the tissues and cells in my body. So it's destroying the thyroid and other parts of the brain. So it causes me to
And
have brain lapse, issues with memory, migraines, can't think straight, paralysis, anemia,
tired. Mm-hmm.
tiredness, insomnia. So basically, I'm getting subcutaneous immunoglobulin IG treatments for it. I was approved for it. That's basically
Yes.
plasma from blood. It's separated
Yeah.
from the blood. It's plasma, and that's what I need
And
to get this better. Apparently.
and and that's it's good that you're looking into that, because Emery Smith actually speaks about how good plasma is on some of his talks. So you're on the right track. And what's really amazing is you've looked a lot into this, and you've done your research, and you've done founded doctors when you've gone in there to talk in regards to what's going on with you. And it's like they don't know what you're talking about, because you've done the research. You've done you've you've done the studies in regards to what's going on with you, so you pushed for what you need to have done.
Yeah, I actually, the migraines got worse in
Mm.
2016, mid 2016. So, and I had a medical scan done of myself. I did it myself. I intuitively knew something was going on in my brain, in the right hemisphere of my brain. And when I did a scan, I noticed this white blockage in the middle of my head, right hemisphere of my brain. And I knew it was some sort of a lesion, this little mid-sized, from little to mid-sized mass. So I insisted on having an MRI done. My doctors didn't believe me, but I insisted. I got the referral for it. I paid for it out of my own pocket. Usually Canada has a
And
public
they're
medical
expensive.
system. Yeah, yeah. Canada has
Yeah, it's expensive.
it is very expensive. Canada has a public medical system where it's free to get an MRI done usually, but they didn't believe me, so they didn't want to give me one. So I did pay
Wow.
1,200 something out of pocket, and it showed a white matter lesion deep in my brain. And when I showed this to my neurologist and other
Urologist.
doctor, they're like, "I can't believe that's there. I can't explain it."
I
And
can't believe. Sorry, they should have reimbursed you the money. Regardless, you still proved them that this lesion was there, so they
yeah.
should have still reimbursed you. So, but continue.
Yeah, and it showed that I had a demyelination factor, which is basically the myelin sheath around your neurons and axons is wearing thin and it's not remyelinating. So, the pathway, how when you're thinking, there is energy going to from your thought process to your brain to the neurons and axons. So the
Yes,
signaling, this electric signaling of the thinking process is not getting through because you don't
it's
have
not
enough.
firing.
Yeah, it's not firing correctly. You don't have enough
Mm,
myelin sheath to protect your neurons and axons. So the signal processing slows down and you have memory issue lapses, cognitive memory, where you might not remember things or it takes longer for you to think something out because the signal is not getting where it should go. And there's no way to reverse the demyelination process and remyelinate the myelin sheath. But supposedly, this subcutaneous immunoglobulin IG therapy, this plasma therapy that I'm going to be learning how to self infuse into my stomach, is supposed to reverse the demyelination process and get rid of the white matter lesion that's in my brain.
exactly. So, and for people out there who have had who do have autoimmune, issues, there is another lady another experience, my lab on Facebook, who has suffered this type of thing also. Reach out to Ileana and have a talk, because you really do know what you're talking about. All these big words go straight over my head, but the thing is that you have done a study, and doctors have been dumbfounded at the studies that you know. So, reach out and have a talk to you, and you can put them onto the right track.
Yeah, and apparently, this it's not just my disorder. It's also multiple sclerosis, fibromyalgia, lupus, and other autoimmune disorders that can be triggered by having contact experiences, or abductions with extraterrestrials.
Yeah, well, I have a thyroid goiter in my throat, which has been now inflamed. It's a little bit smaller than a golf, but it's probably half the size of a golf ball. And I had tests done on that uh, around 4 years ago, and they came back okay. But it hasn't grown in size or anything like that, and it's not giving me any stresses. But I do get tired a lot. I mean, I am a single mum, so raising two children is exhausting when they want your attention all the time. And I'm about to start homeschooling my eldest son, because he's also targeted. Um, so, the days are exhausting, and when you have these autoimmune issues, that it's exhausting. And people, some days you don't want to talk to people and you just want to sleep, and then other days you've got so much to do that you sort of don't know what to do with yourself. So, um, but I am going to go back and have some tests done, just to make sure that nothing has formulated out of this goiter that's in my throat, because it's noticeable. So it's not something that it's small, or that I can ignore. if it's cancerous or anything like that, it has to be dealt with. And I think if there was any form of cancer in regards to this, to the thyroid goiter, then I'd probably start CBD oil treatment ASAP, because I don't trust the doctors. I
Yeah.
mean, you proved that by going in there and giving them all the information you got, and sort of wowed them, and they're like, no, and you're like, yeah, I've done my study, so I know what I'm talking about. So I don't myself trust the doctors. Um, so, I will, though, go in and try and get some testing done. They did a biopsy last time while I was awake. They just numbed the area and obviously took some samples, but everything seemed to come back okay. But there's also a saliva test of some sort. Do you know what that one is?
I don't know what the saliva test is, but
Yeah,
usually for thyroid issues, you want to check your TSH. You
that's
want
it. Yep.
T3, T4. Also, for me, what they did, because I was always tired and had achy muscles and joints, what they did was they tested my antithyroid peroxidase antibodies,
hmm
and it came back 500, 300. And then when I moved to Kelowna with my parents, because the apartment didn't work out, it jumped to 3,894 because I was exposed to radon gas and
Gosh.
uranium deposit radiation. And we had no idea when we moved to Kelowna. We had no idea that
Mm.
that's there. Also, I was supposed to move into an apartment in Abbotsford, BC, and also has radon gas there because it's zone 1. It's closer to the mountains, so I can live in the apartment. It had been sprayed with aerosol for anti-smoking. I was getting migraines. I was having trouble breathing. My throat hurt and I was choking. So I couldn't live in the apartment, and I went up to Kelowna where my parents moved,
Yeah.
and I started having these psychotic episodes where, I was screaming, I want to go home, something's wrong here. I'm going crazy. I think I'm going crazy. I think I'm being jacked,
Was
like on
was this
drugs.
the place where you're up in the mountains?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and
I felt like I was on
you
heroin or
you had a lot of
cocaine.
attacks. You had a lot of attacks and a lot of visits up there. Also, you took a lot of photographs of some crafts up there as well, and you were hit with an energy beam. Is that the one? Is that the place where you were?
The energy beam where I was attacked, that was actually when we returned to the lower mainland, South Surrey.
Right.
But
Yeah.
what I had a lot of psychic communications with a
Yeah.
TR-3B pilot from the one of
Yes.
the
Yes.
United States USAF programs and the Canadian Royal Air Force, actually. He told me
Mm.
what they're doing up in Antarctica, how they have these man made drones that actually bring supplies to the Arctic and Antarctica bases, and how they look for these ancient cities and technologies and do excavations, which is something that Emery Smith also talked about, where they
Yeah.
use
Yep.
beyond ground penetrating radar. It's reverse engineered, so it's better. It could see like deep within the earth.
Yeah, and they use satellites now to do that also. Well,
Yeah,
he said, I'm pretty sure that they use satellites.
yeah,
They can use the satellites. Yes, yes,
yeah.
sorry.
And that's the same thing that Aaron told me, that these drone ships do the same stuff. They have this type of a radar on the craft, and it could, penetrate deep within the ground and see stuff that normal satellites can't.
Mm,
So that sort of corroborates what Emery Smith was talking about, and I'd come out with this information before Emery spoke about it.
yeah.
And I've been saying that they have the cybernetic labs, medical labs attached to the Mars bases, where they were making cyborgs and the smart suits, the planetary corporations on Mars. And then in
Well,
2000, yeah.
sorry, no, continue.
And Emery Smith came out with that information that they're building the smart suits, not per se on Mars, on Earth, in private corporations and laboratories, and that he actually got to wear one of these suits, smart suits.
Mm,
So the information is very similar. But going back to Kelowna, I can I started having these myoclonic jerks, and I felt like I was being put on drugs like cocaine, speed, or heroin when I
yeah.
wasn't. When I went to the hospital, they did drug testing urine sample, and it came back as clean. So I
Clear.
wasn't on drugs, and I told them repeatedly, no, I'm not on drugs. I'm not taking anything. I think something is going on with my thyroid, my hormones, that it's too high, and they wouldn't want to do the test for me. So I went to a walk-in clinic, and I found out that that was 3,894, the TPOs. And so I immediately left Kelowna. I came back to South Surrey, rented a place, and immediately those TPOs started dropping. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. I'm so sensitive to environmental issues.
Mm.
And
Yeah,
then,
strong senses, strong smells, strong powders, strong deodorants, anything with strong perfumes. They
yeah,
set you off, don't they? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
they do. So, when we sold the house and they did the house inspection, they told us, well, why don't you have a radon gas detector? Because you could have higher emissions of radon gas. And we're like, we don't know. We didn't know about this.
Is that even illegal to have such a high reading of a gas though? I know here if there's a gas leak in anybody's properties, I mean the house is basically quarantined because you know it could blow up.
Well,
Basically, it's
well,
a health risk.
yeah, I know, but legally they have been putting in piping in the house that's
Mm.
supposed to kind of like reroute the radon gas from the house into the pipes and into the air.
Yeah,
But I'm sensitive to even small amounts of radon. Every house, even with the piping system, it has a very small amount of radon. It's in the soil, it's in the air, it's in the rocks because they were doing
and
rock
this
blasting. And
comes along with geopathic stress as well. Did you find that you were sensitive to the geopathic stress that was in the house?
I think I was, yeah, because it's a
Yeah.
construction zone. It's still a large construction zone up on the mountain with
Mm.
rock blasting and stuff. But the I think it's the radon gas and the radiation from the uranium deposits because
Yeah.
they're literally disturbing the ground. They're blasting the rocks. They're digging out the soil to build homes.
Messing with with Mother Nature.
Exactly, and the radon gas just comes out
Pours
from
out.
the ground and
Yeah.
from the rocks when it's disturbed. So, and it has high levels in Kelowna, and just we're glad we sold that place because I'm very sensitive to environmental, to different environments and what's there. And now I look at geographical maps, and there it was. The radon gas is from 50 to
Yeah.
100%, 99.9, which is close to 100%, and the radiation is 6.0 to 7.9 in uranium deposits.
Wow.
So it's not a good place to
See,
live.
I would not have, I mean, I would not have thought about all these things when I purchased my first house. I just purchased a house and started living in it, but I mean, we're in a pretty dense area here in Australia, down the bottom of Australia, in Victoria. At the moment, the weather's really horrible. It's cold. But apart from getting back to the thyroid and stuff like that, mine, uh, um, apart from that, I'm relatively healthy. I don't take any pharmaceutical products. I had quit eating meat for 16, 17 months there, and my whole body changed. I went vegetarian. I stopped drinking alcohol, stopped taking pharmaceuticals, and yeah, my whole body changed. So that sort of a change in diet also does help dramatically. You know, I know that when Emery did his talk, one of his talks with his TV show, I'll say that, he mentioned about you know lightning hitting water and how it basically charges it with plasma. So getting back to your to the research you've done and what you're going to start doing, the plasma is going to be really good for you. So perhaps I should start trying the plasma.
Well, it
might
is,
might
yeah.
boost me up a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's hard to get medical authorization to actually get infused
Yeah.
with plasma because it's blood
Unless you don't
product.
know, like, and you've done so much research into this and you really blew the doctors away with what you knew and how much research you do because so many people take the doctor's word and, you know, trust their doctors so much. But you really do, when you're having such bad health issues, you really do need to do your own research as well. There, and the information is there to research.
Yeah, it is there, and I'm library technician, so research is
Yeah,
my job. I went to school for 2.5 years for library and information technology diploma. So I was taught how to do proper research to verify sources and resources, what's good, what's bad in general. I'm good with computer science. I'm good with we were taught about law, about medical libraries, about computer science. So to do research in all of those fields and other fields, just general research. So we were exposed to that in school, working with
that's actually really
computers.
good. That's good
Hmm.
because here the education system hasn't changed since World War II. So that's a long time for an education system to still implement the same resources of information. So that's why the homeschooling. That's why one of the reasons I decided to pull my son out of school also is because the homeschooling broadens your mindset. So they have the ability to search and research things in their own time, and they can actually look further than what the system will actually allow them. So the school systems only allow them to go to certain uh, research avenues. So while he's here, he can look at every avenue on the internet and look at the pros and the cons of all his research. So it's really good to have that and give your children that sort of mindset to be able to think for themselves. And that's why, like, our school system here is just not like that. Like it's just conform, obey. We're going to tell you what you're going to learn, and that's that. And there's no looking outside the box.
Well, the reason I chose library school is because it did allow me freedom of researching, and they encouraged
Yeah.
us to do very specialized projects on computers and to find information on the internet and in libraries that you normally would not be able to find. So
Mm.
I chose my own path, and um, I'm grateful for it because it's helping me with the medical research. And also, when I was on the Mars Cybernetic Labs, I was a body parts quality control technician and a genetics specialist. But I have no medical formal training at all, but I know all these weird medical terminologies
Yeah.
because
That.
going what you were talking about, the knowledge downloads we get, I get medical
Yeah.
knowledge downloads.
I was like, what the hell is going on? This was only a couple of weeks ago. I woke up talking in my sleep basically, and it was going through my head about homeostasis and biosphere structures, and I was like, these are words that I would not normally talk about, and I mentioned it to you. And the week prior, it was only a few nights, sorry, prior to to waking up, talking about these things. I actually had a recall that I was in a cybernetic lab and working with cybernetics, and it was just, it dumbfounded me. And I know I can speak to you about these things because you have had these recalls and you have worked in these labs. And you said, yeah, you've been working with cybernetics. And I'm like, remember, like I said, I'm not that smart. Like, I'm not that intelligent because I don't even know what these things mean. So it was really ironic to wake up thinking about homeostasis, and I was like, "What is homeostasis?" And molecular, what is it? Molecular. Now I can't even say the word.
Molecular.
Biosphere, molecular biosphere structures, and I was like, "What am I making?" Or what am I testing?
Oh, it could be from anything to everything because
Yeah.
what they can do in the secret space programs, planetary corporations, Dark Fleet, Notch to Often, as it's called, Dark Fleet, they can give you medical knowledge downloads, science,
Mhm. Yeah.
technology, computers, anything. You don't have to be an expert in it, or you don't have to even have learned it in school as schooling or work.
And these downloads can come telepathically also. So it's not as though, you can spend a few minutes with these people, explaining it, and they can give it to you telepathically. So they can give you 2 years worth of knowledge in like 5 minutes.
Yeah, or they could give you somebody else's memory engrams who
Yeah.
specializes in those. medicine fields, technology, science, computers, and then you're good to go. You can now work in these cybernetic labs or
Yeah.
computer rooms, archives, whatever, because they've given you somebody else's memories. They've downloaded into those memories into your Neuralink implants, the microchips that are in your brain, or like you said, they've psychically passed on the information that you
Yeah.
need into your brain because your psionic abilities are very powerful.
Yeah. So a couple of weeks back, I took a photo of quite an ironic looking cloud in the sky, and I posted it on Facebook, and I said, no coincidence that this looks like a battleship from Star Wars. So I sent it to you, and you actually wrote a write up in regards to this. Did you want to speak about that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
When you sent me the image, I'm like, that looks suspiciously triangular and it's huge, just
hmm
hovering and
It
floating
was.
there.
Yeah, it was massive. It wasn't directly over my house. It was, a little way away, but it stood out so much to me. Not, I mean, another person just looking at it would have gone, "Oh, that's a cloud," but I intuitively just knew that is not a cloud. That is massive. I mean, this thing would have been, the size of a football field, bigger. Like it would have been bigger. It would have easily blacked out most of the town that I lived in if it had continued to come across. It didn't change shape for a couple of hours because I kept a watch on it. But I sent you the photos and you did some digital enhancements on it, didn't you?
Yeah, I did some various exposures on it with
hmm
filters. So I did different filter exposures on it. And lo and behold, when I actually exposed, and I did like 5 different photos of the same thing, because you sent me 2 photos of it from different
Yeah,
viewpoints. So, and I used those photos and I did 5 more photos and 5 more and used different colors and heat signature as well. And this thing was putting out a lot of heat, a lot of
it
heat.
was so. hmm
And it was where the heat was coming from was from the shielding of the cloaking
Yeah,
device. So it was emitting a lot of heat signature from the cloaking device to masquerade to keep itself cloaked within the cloud and to give the cloud that triangular shape. So it's a battleship. It's a notched Waffen Dark Fleet battleship.
exactly. Yeah,
Very
yeah.
specific.
And that night, I actually remember seeing Penny Bradley in a dream in a dream recall, and we were in our civilian clothes, like we were in our clothes that we would now. Like I was in my what I wear to bed, and Penny was wearing, a skirt and a top, and yeah, we were getting into the back of some craft, and I think that Donald Trump was there as well, and I was like, oh my God, and I didn't put two and two together until later on in that day, and I was like, oh my God, Penny was in that dream, in that recall, and Donald Trump was in that recall. And I was like, and that ship, they have had to have taken me that night.
And you tried to remote view the
Yeah,
battleship, and you had a headache, a bad headache, because
yeah,
it was messing with
and a
your
pain.
third eye.
Yep, pain in my third eye, and I saw that it was metallic of some type, but that was about all that I could see in it, and I just got an instant headache. My third eye started to throb, and I just kept getting basically from my higher self, no, no, no. So I stopped, but I did try again the next day and couldn't see anything. I just couldn't. I was blocked. So I don't know what they did. So whether or not they put a blocker on my third eye, or whether they'd shut my third eye down or something, but it was just really ironic.
Yeah, and when you asked me to have a to have a look at it psychically,
Mm,
and I saw that they had beamed you out through a portal system,
yeah,
and um, and that you were taken up on the ship through a portal.
yeah. Well, let's see, that the only memory that I do have is seeing Penny, um, and it was just like, wow, this is just so weird because I'm always looking up at the sky. I actually had sent you another one, which was nearly directly over my house, and it was a large triangular craft, like almost like a TR3B. And you also did some heat signatures on that as well, and we worked out that that was also a craft.
Yeah, definitely,
Mm.
definitely. But my main interest was in the triangular one, the battleship.
Yeah,
Um,
well, it was massive, wasn't it? So it was a little bit. Some people just look at clouds and think they're clouds, but when you can actually you've got that psychic connection to them and you can actually sense what they are. I mean, I copped a little bit of slack from people on Facebook. It's just a cloud. It's a lenticular, I think they called it, cloud or something like that. And I'm like, it wasn't a cell cloud. It was a craft. It stood out so big that I thought, it being silly like this, look at this, take the picture or screenshot the picture or save the picture on your phone. You can fiddle with it with your filters and your heat signature filters and whatnot. So people can be really cruel sometimes online when you post things and they think you're just an idiot, but these things are actually happening. So, but anyways,
yeah,
well,
that was not a lenticular cloud, for sure.
no, it wasn't.
It had a
Um,
strong heat signature, and the clouds around the craft didn't have that heat signature. Heat signature,
yeah,
it just didn't.
it didn't. No. Well, I think I can hear my children start to carry on, Ileana. So how about we leave that there for now, and we organise another talk sometime soon, because this has been really good, and I'm glad that we've got this talk out.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Rochelle. And I do have also memories of us being in the Vatican underground vault and looking
Yes,
at
yes,
artifacts there. And I remember you as a blonde with long hair. So
yeah. Well, I have long hair now. It's actually it's 3/4 of the way down my back. So that's something that we could actually pick up again on another time if you like.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and
That'd be great.
and now we know these artifacts are not just artifacts.
Yeah.
They're clockworks, time travel and portal technology. They activate that, and a lot of it is stored in the Vatican underground vault system.
Yes, and you actually pulled up some images in regards to that also. So, and you pulled up Kevin Trammell also was in there as well. So
Yeah,
we should look forward to talking about that again soon, and hopefully we can get in another talk soon.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
you are very busy over the next month, aren't you, with your training?
yeah. The experimental treatment for the SCIG,
Yeah.
and I know that you'll be busy homeschooling your beautiful child.
Yeah, gonna give it a go. It's not as hard as what it looks, so it's very easy, and they get to cover a lot of subjects. So we will definitely organise another talk soon.
Yeah, and you're doing another interview soon with Will Glover and Anthony Zender.
Yes, on the reality brief show. Hopefully, Don is feeling a lot better by then, because it wouldn't be a show without him, I guess.
Yeah, and
He's a bit of a character.
yeah, and you remember Will and Anthony from other SSP missions and teleporting people to places where they needed to be. So
Yes, I think Will mentioned that one about the airport that got shut down. So that'll be a really good talk to have with the guys. So I'm looking forward to that one.
yeah, oh
Hopefully, no interruptions on that one.
yeah, and before you go, you did tell me about the vampires and the zombies.
Yes, yes. I've had a lot of vampire. Well, I had one major vampire recall where I was in a den of. There was a den. There was 4 sections of this den, and I was there with an elder vampire, and we had to remove the. I suppose you could call them juvenile vampires. So they were obviously like a new recruit of vampires. They weren't following the regulations and what they were meant to be doing. So we were there to take them out. And in the process, I took out the elder vampire. So when I spoke with Peter, the insider, about that, he had a giggle, because he goes, they're not happy with you. And I said, oh, okay. I said, and I started to get worried, and I thought, am I in danger? And he goes, no, they're not happy with you because you took out the elder vampire. And it's energetic. It's, when they speak about vampires, it's their energetic leeches basically type thing. So I had a bit of a giggle about that.
And also some kind of a zombie program.
Yeah, I'd had a zombie recall, so we were in like a Las Vegas hotel type place, and then all of a sudden a zombie outbreak happened, and I was there with a guy that I know also from the reality we live in now, and I had to get to the top. There was another lady with me, and I'm pretty sure when I did explain this to Peter, he did tell me who that person was, and we had to get to the roof. And it was pretty full on. It was like basically what you see in the Resident Evil movies. They were quick, they were witty. They weren't just slow, want to drain your blood or not drain your blood, but eat your brains. Vampires. They were quick, so they were very genetically modified. So and when we're talking about zombies, we're talking about Umbrella Corporation, witches on the Resident Evil movies, and we're talking about infectious viruses. So people don't just become a zombie. It's a virus that
Yeah,
has been injected into them. So, but they looked like what you see on the movie Resident Evil. They were just so quick. So, and when I got to the top of this casino building, we were picked up by black helicopters. So it's really weird, and it's really weird to sit back and think about, what through listening to all the talks that people do about this and the information, and then realising that these corporations, the Umbrella Corporation, Monarch, Montauk, all those corporations, that they are actually real.
yeah, and I'm doing a presentation about wet rooms and
Yeah,
genetically modified experiments gone wrong, because I remember that too, the zombie programs a little bit,
yeah,
where they had to they had these cleaner teams put down these people that were infected with the viruses to see how they could genetically be altered to release these people on populations and infect them
yeah,
and have
yeah.
world epidemics of zombies. It sounds like crazy fiction, but it's not.
Well,
And they're
they did have zombie raccoon, an article about zombie raccoons happening, about how raccoons were acting very zombie-ish type thing. I'm sure if people want to search it up, is zombie raccoons. I think Tyler from Secure Team 10, he actually covered a video in regards to the zombie raccoons.
Yeah, and in my presentation, I have very graphic images of a woman shooting these zombies, genetically modified abominations gone wrong, and often it's mixed with extraterrestrial genetics, so they don't become
Yeah,
zombies.
yeah.
So
So these testings are being done, and being done in the underground bases, and being done on animals. And Emery Smith, Peter the Insider,
have talked about these things, yeah.
Penny, we have all talked about these things. And, I mean, when are the public actually, when are the people going to start saying, oh, it's not, it's just in the movies? No, it's not. Like, if you do the research, there's been outbreaks. I mean, the Plum Island uh, animal facility, it's a testing facility. I mean, the amount of animals that, genetically modified and mutated animals that wash up on the shores of Montauk and Plum Island. People need to wake up. They're trying to augment and mess around and manipulate these, humans and animals.
Exactly, and they do in Area 51 in Dulce,
Yeah,
they do genetic splicing and dicing modifications of human DNA with animal DNA to create new hybrids, and of ET human DNA combined together to make new
yeah,
hybrids. So it's
they
done.
do.
It's done in Antarctica as well. There's this recent TV movie that came out called The Titan, where
Yeah.
they genetically modified soldiers and only one survived, and they sent him to
hmm
Titan.
And that's what happens. And, they discard the, well, you could call them military people, or the experiments. So that the people that go in there sign up for these things, whether they are willing or not, they're just discarded. They're thrown away. If they survive, they survive. They don't, they don't.
Yeah,
And so they're test subjects.
Yeah, and it's an abomination with genetic editing and adding in human genetics from extraterrestrials or animals, and then you're
Hmm.
screwed basically.
Yeah.
You're an abomination that turns into a zombie or something else, and you're out of control.
Yeah, or they like they put different ET DNA or animal DNA into and create the hybrids. You've spoken about this. Emery spoke about it. Peter the Insider and James Rinker spoke about it. These are things that have been spoke about. So it's not fantasy.
Yeah, and I've had memories of the wet rooms on basically on Notch Dwarf and Darkfleet barge ships out in space where they torture you for information, the interrogators, and then once the torture is over and you've told them what they want to know, they fill up the wet room with water and you end up swimming in your own blood for a couple of hours with bruises, cuts,
Yeah,
and beatings, and then it's so
and
painful.
And they do also do holographic training like that. I had a recall where I woke up in a factory and it was a killing factory. And I mean, the machinery were all a blue coloured machinery, but it was a very dry factory. But they had a lot of torture equipment. One was where a lady was going through like a meat mincer, and I was in a cage with another woman, and I was able to escape. And the short version of it is that they chased after me and attacked me with not meat cleavers, machetes. But I was able to gain control and get the machetes, and I actually had to physically harm this woman. And I remember the sound of hitting her with with a machete, and she kept coming, but she was zombified. Like she just wasn't a normal woman. But these were real people, that I can remember. So they can do holographic training sessions like that as well as actually real wet room sessions where they
Yeah.
are actually torturing you, where they are actually trying to cut your legs off, or we'll just chuck you into a regeneration tank, um, and fill you with nanites and whatnot. So these things are happening.
Yeah, they could basically, if you're tortured, right? So that no, but there's no evidence of the torture. They stick you into the regeneration tank with the nanites or the different goos, and it
Yeah,
regenerates you like nothing ever happened. So there's no evidence of you being ever tortured.
yeah,
That
and
happens
it's
all
and
the
it's
time.
and it's traumatic. I mean, I know I've done a lot of work in regards to fear-based emotions, and it's traumatic to actually sit back. To wake up in the morning and go, "Did that really happen? What the fuck?" Excuse me for swearing, but that's how you feel when you wake up the next morning. And I've been in these, and I've been tortured, and I've done this, and this has been done to me, and it's horrific. So it's really good to have the SSP community and the experiences to be able to talk amongst each other. It's also a healing process to be able to get that information out to each other and talk about it.
Oh, exactly.
It
And
is as ugly as it is.
it is very ugly and traumatic, and they can also
Mm,
stick you into holographic medical pods to regenerate you from being half dead or dead for that matter.
yeah, yeah.
So much
And then blank
advanced
slate,
tech.
and then using the blank slate technology just to completely, well, I don't actually think that they can completely wipe your mind. It's like they put it in a pocket. I mean, they probably can, but from what I feel is that it's like they put that memory in a pocket in your brain that you can't access, or you haven't the ability to access as well. But a lot of people, I mean, there's hundreds and thousands of SSP experience out there that have these dreams but have absolutely no idea what the hell's going on because they think that it's just dreams.
Yeah, they've been blank slated, mind wiped. They have these also memory engram stations where they remove your memories or give you other
Mm.
people's memories into your brain. So much
In-
technology that could blank slate, superimpose other people's memories onto yours, make you forget, give you a whole other personality that's not yours, and somebody
yeah,
else's memories. So it's
and
never ends.
they can they can do partial implants of like they'll sort of mix some type of holographic memory into your recall, which will coincide. This is what I found with myself, which will coincide with your actual recall. So it's masking the actual recall with familiar faces, so that you're not, I guess, so traumatized in that recall.
Yeah, like screen memories or
Yeah,
holographic
yep,
memory inserts. as it's called.
Exactly.
Yeah,
See, I'm not really experienced with a lot of the high technical names in all of this. I'm still trying to learn. I've only been doing this for about a bit over 2 years now. So, but I'm still trying to learn all the fancy tech words. But I'm getting there. But it's been great, and it's been great to be able to reach out to you guys and the people in the SSP group who aren't closed-minded and actually do have a bit of have some sympathy for what you've gone through.
Oh yeah, and you actually had asked me to talk about the vampires, and is
Hmm.
that real? And I didn't want to, but
No.
vampires have basically been transplanted from other star systems. They're basically energy vampires. They feed
Yep.
off of people's energy and not just blood, so they don't have to
Yeah.
physically bite you and drain you of blood. They drain you of energy. That's what they
And
feed on.
the blood carries a lot of energy, not to mention our DNA signature also. So I mean, they're looshing in every sense your
Yeah,
energy.
it could be both psychic vampires that drain your psychic energy of your soul, of
Mm,
your aura, and it could be blood exchange too, and draining you of blood. So it could be both. They're
yeah.
basically space parasites off world that have been genetically hybridized and bred with human populations
Hmm.
thousands of years ago, even millions. When the Atlantis experimentation was going on, the genetic alterations, and even before that. So vampires are not originals here on Earth. They're off-world. They're
Yeah.
extraterrestrials, just like werewolves and other things. That all does exist. The paranormal, the supernatural. We just don't see it on a regular basis.
See, Kevin Trammell, actually, we had spoken about my vampire recall, and he said the time that I also had the dark hair and I dressed up like Celine off the Underworld movie, he said was about the time that the vampire and werewolf wars were going on. And that really interests me. So we spoke a little bit about that. And I said to him, well, it sort of coincides with what's going on. I said, because I've always been, and it's not that I wanted to be a vampire or anything like that, but I always had an interest in those movies. Now I don't really so much watch them as what I used to, but I mean anything vampire movie that came out I would watch. So I sort of realised now, because I was obviously a part of that, but not what you would call bad. Because when I spoke to Peter about it, I said to him, "What was I, a bad vampire?" And he goes, "Oh, nothing like that." And I'm like, "Okay, so but I was obviously there to stop the bad the bad vampires." And he said, "Yes." And I'm like, "Okay, so I did something good." You go, and again he said, "Yes, but they're not happy with you." And he had a laugh, and I thought, "Oh, he's so lovely, lovely to joke about something that I'm freaking out about." But it was good. He's a good man.
Yeah, and I psychically, when I looked at your memories, I saw you killing a vampire type being, an energetic
Wow.
vampire in a black getup.
Yeah.
So that's not a coincidence. And I sent
No.
you a picture of that, and we kind of discussed it. And then I actually talked to you about the vampire stuff, and I did say, yeah, I was also fascinated with the underworld movies. I watched all five
Yeah.
installations of it, and they do a lot of genetic dicing and splicing and genetic
They do.
modification.
Yeah, with the hybrids, and Celine ends up getting, almost like a pure blood. Well, she gets pure bitten, well, helped out by a pure blood vampire to give her, um, like extra abilities, I suppose you could say, stronger abilities. She's basically unstoppable.
Yeah, she goes through the water ritual like homeostasis, and
Mm,
the water purifies her and makes you made her pure bloodborne.
yeah, yeah.
Literally, that
That's
was.
I do like them. I mean, I I see there's this side of the movie where, she wasn't a bad person. She wasn't a bad vampire, and she wanted to stop the vampire wars and the lichen wars. But at the same, so does coincide with what Kevin was speaking about with the vampire wars and the werewolf wars. Definitely makes sense.
Yeah, and that stuff is not just made up supernatural,
Mm.
paranormal folklore.
But
Um,
we've all been made and indoctrinated to think that all this, or whatever the word is, to think that all our movies are fantasy and entertainment, and the cabal have put these things in front of us to entertain us so that we're staying dumb. But yet there's disclosure in a lot of TV programs, like a lot of TV series, a lot of movies. Um, People say, when are we getting disclosure? We've been getting disclosure for years, but people have just not looked at it like that. They've looked at it as though it's entertainment.
yeah, and I mean also video games because Resident
Yeah,
Evil is also a video game.
yep, yep.
Um, and there's so many other video games off the top of my head. I really drawing a blank,
Yeah, I
but
was just trying to think. My son's been playing. I couldn't even think of the word of it, but yeah, it's on the tip of my tongue. But video games are also training. So they're also training, the young kids to be used as assets.
oh, for sure. Because you can, through
Mm,
virtual reality, they actually do training sessions on Mars bases and to get you ready for mission protocols and mission parameters. And that's what
yeah,
they do in video games to entrench the
yep,
children
yep,
for war and
exactly.
battle.
I have a friend who plays. She's my age, or not my age. She's um, her name's Stacey. We've spoke about Stacey before. She's also an SSP, but she hasn't, an experiencer. She hasn't come out to speak about it yet. And she plays a video game. It's her downtime. She calls it her wind down time. And when she taps in with her higher self, she asks, "Is this training?" And she gets yes. So her
Yeah.
downtime playing the video games is still training. It's that subconscious training.
Yeah, I mean, there's this new video game, Elora Dust 514, and I just found out about it yesterday. I'm not going to play the video game, but it had a lot of disclosure about the planetary corporations, about the Mars basis, and docking stations for ships.
Hmm.
And I included that in for Penny's disclosure post right before the show because I did an interview with her yesterday, and people are like,
Yeah.
"Wow, that's video game disclosure for you. What goes on off world?"
There's actually another one in a recent talk with James Rink and Peter the Insider and Jessica. They spoke about a video game called Human in Detroit, I think it's called, or Human in Detroit, or something like that. And Peter explains that a lot of Detroit, see, I'm not really familiar with America much at all. A lot of them are actually like a cyborg, a cybernetic humanoid people there. And he said the video game is basically on what is going on in Detroit. So it's basically it's disclosure. And there's disclosure in so many things that people need to open their eyes up about because it's hidden in plain sight. Everything's hidden in plain sight.
Yeah, like the video game Assassin's Creed and the last
Yeah, and
movie.
Halo. Yeah.
Yeah, the Assassin's Creed movie and the video game actually discloses information about the Vatican underground vault that
Hmm.
houses all those ancient artifacts that are technological ones.
Yeah.
And Kevin, I have memories of Kevin Trammell being in the Vatican underground vault, all the way down to the scar under the lip and the nose, and the character in Assassin's Creed in that video game where
Yeah.
he goes into the Vatican underground vault, he also has a scar in the same place. So it's quite interesting.
It is, isn't it? It's
Hmm.
fascinating, and I have a lot of scarring also, and a lot of implant scarring and marks on my body, and I wake up with needle marks, and I've spoken to a few SSP experiences who obviously haven't come forward, so they confide in us, over Facebook or Skype or whatnot, or email, and they also have a lot of markings that they can't explain, or they will wake up with needle marks and scrape marks. And I know James Rinks has sent me a few pictures of his needle marks within his mouth and in his nose. I've got the same. I have a massive scrape mark in the right side of the wall of on my nose, and it's quite painful. And it can scabs up, and it's quite irritating, and it hurts. And um, I have a massive scar on my left shoulder, which I can't explain. I have absolutely no idea how I got it. And, it's a surgical scar. I have these little surgical scars all over my arms, and I have no idea how I got them. Some of them are almost like keyhole surgery scars.
Yeah, like
So,
through laparoscopic means. So
yeah,
small.
yep, yep, very tiny. So,
And
um, it's very real. So, there is physical evidence.
yeah, it's like military secret space program abductions or extraterrestrial abductions, and it's hard to know which one it was.
Mm. Unless you actually have that, that full remembrance of that recall. And people do. People have memories of waking up on crafts, being, on operating tables surrounded by, say, grey aliens, or, having surgical procedures done, and they actually go home and they wake up. They wake up in the middle of the abduction, but the next day they've still got those scars and those markings.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, some of those grays are remote operated robots or
Drones, yeah,
drones, semi corporeal beings that are part organic and part cyber nanotech. So, remote operated drones, exactly, with some soul capacity, a little bit just to function. And they're the
yeah,
ones that are doing these abductions.
yeah,
So it's not the actual ET being, and that's the form of. It's just a remote operated drone, semi-organic, cybernetic, whatever being that's filled with nanite
yeah.
tech to do whatever it's programmed to do from afar.
It's a little bit sad too, I guess. They're just a drone. They're like just this robot being used to do all these horrible things.
Yeah, and they don't really have a soul. They have a little portion of one just so they can do what they're programmed by whoever is controlling them.
Yeah,
And that's that. And they do the bidding of their handlers, just like we, the
yeah,
assets, do the bidding of our handlers. And our free will is constricted while we're in these programs. But when we're out, we can say no more, no thank you, I don't want this. I revoke all of these contracts. Make your prayers and just say no,
yeah.
because
It,
we don't.
it's Yeah, we haven't asked for this, like, now in this conscious life when we understand what's going on. We don't ask for this. We don't want this to happen. And that's where I got a little bit annoyed by, an interviewer who says that we enjoy what's going on and we're glorifying what's happening in the SSP experiences.
Yeah, we're definitely not glorifying anything. And this interviewer, they have their own, I guess, prayer healing protocol, whatnot. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, we're not glorifying any of this, and I'm not going to go against this person. Maybe the healing protocol does help, so you're not kidnapped or abducted by the
well,
SSP or the aliens.
everybody has to have something that they believe in. So if that's what suits them, then that's fine. But just so people know that this is not, some fantasy that we're living out. This is real things that have happened to real people, and that the way that they heal is by speaking about it, is by getting the information out. That is the most healing part of it all. That we do a lot of self-healing as well. So behind the scenes and behind speaking about all our experiences and talking in interviews and everything, we're still doing our own healing within ourselves.
Yeah, and we've done a lot of praying. We've done the contract revocations, so we're not
Yeah.
kidnapped again by the SSP or extraterrestrials, so we don't have these ET contact experiences, the negative or the positive, because you don't know if it,
Cons-
yeah,
yeah,
the
sorry.
archons, the whatnot, because it may seem like a positive experience when in reality, behind the veil, it's very bad, it's very negative. Um, we've done the prayer, we've done the revocation of the contracts. People have gone for the healing protocol, whatnot, but they're still
Into
abducted.
Yeah, and integrating altars and stuff like that. So there's they are. I know I'm still being taken. I don't know. I've tried, and like I've done all the revoking. And I remember Penny helped me to do some revoking of contracts a long time ago when I first started looking into this, and I did revoke. Tried, I with all my heart's intent to revoke all contracts, and then I was able to speak with Peter and the Insider, and he explained, no, you're still being taken. I'm like, what the heck? Well, what the fudge, as he says. So, and it's like some people you don't. Sometimes it doesn't matter what you do. If they're going to take you, they're going to take you, and you're not giving your consent. I say every night, I don't give consent. I, Rochelle, don't consent to this. So sometimes like it just annoys me that people go, oh, but you want this to happen. I've had a spiritual person, I wouldn't really so much call her spiritual, turn around and tell me that I like being abducted. And I said to her, how do I like being abducted if I don't even remember being abducted? But I have these memories.
Yeah,
Oh,
or
and that's false light portraying through these people who call themselves healers, and there's a lot of that happens.
yeah,
And they will give you some good information and some valuable information, but it's also projected with false light. So I
exactly.
agree. I agree in that sense that there's a lot of healers out there that are infiltrated, with false light, or entities that are feeding off their energy to heal other people, but actually giving out false information. It's false light information. It's not actually, with the heart's intent of healing a person.
And the channelers too. If they're
Yeah,
channeling a source creator or even your higher self, how do we know that it's 100% our higher self or source creator providing the healing for us? I'm not saying anything against those things because, it can be productive to get a channeling session, but you don't know
yeah,
100% if that is the information that you're supposed to be getting and it's coming from the correct source.
yeah. I've had a few different people, check into my higher self, and there's been some information that's been correct. Like the three people have validated informations that's come through within the three different sources of channeling. And then there's some that I just think I just don't think that feels right for me. Intuitively, that doesn't feel right. But there's not nobody's saying that their information is incorrect, but there are a lot of false lights channeling through healers, and it's
Yeah.
worrying because they can actually infiltrate you. So, like, I tried my best just to do inner work, and that's one of the biggest things. If you can look within, get a hypnotic regression. If you can afford to. The sad part about all that is that they are expensive. And not a lot of people can actually do it. Well, try do your own regressions. Try and learn off a guided meditation on YouTube or Google, or you. It all starts within. All your own. Like, that was the only way that I started to really remember things, is when I started to work within myself. I could have a channeling session or a higher self channeling session, or a healing session, but none of it sort of made sense to me, but I didn't really remember. So it wasn't until I started doing work within myself and things that happened in those sessions actually validated the things that I was actually starting to remember.
Yeah, and the past life regression that's kind of
Yeah.
incorporated into that self guided meditation for hypnosis.
Mhm.
It's hybrid. It's part of the shamanic protocol for past life
Mm.
regression, and it's part of the hypnosis regression that Joe H. Slate utilizes and Mary Rodwell. And I had no idea
Yeah.
Mary Rodwell was doing the corridors and the doorways, and I just
Yeah.
innately resonated with that
That's
hypnosis
yeah.
regression and
It
incorporated it.
reson it resonated with me too. And Mary Rodwell's actually here in Australia, up in Queensland, and she's a very lovely woman. I've spoken to her briefly on email and through Facebook. And, I mean, it's just a shame that she is up in Queensland, because she's somebody that's helping a lot of people, and she's helping a lot of children as well, because, our children are being abducted. Our children can see, you know, dimensions and the different frequencies and stuff like that. And KJ also helps, in similar ways with the work that she does as well. So there are avenues of people that generally want to help. They're not always out there looking for the money side of it. And when it comes down to money, money is the root of all evil. It's like TV rots your brain. I mean, these sayings that we've heard growing up over the years are true. Um, so, like I minimize my TV watching. I don't watch the news. Um, I mean, my youngest son, when he was littler, he wouldn't sleep through the night. I'd be up sometimes 6, 7 times a night. And it wasn't until I spoke to KJ and she explained that there could be portals in your bedroom and there were portals in your house and entities are coming through those portals and waking up your child and scaring the living shit out of your child. So it wasn't until I worked out how to connect with my higher self, whether it be through muscle testing, a pendulum, or whether I can telepathically speak with my higher self, that I was actually able to successfully close down that portal. And I've had another healer friend come in and close down the portal, and then he started sleeping so much better. I mean, he was sleeping, 8 to 10 hours a night. So, you just have to sort of go with your intuition on healers and people that you feel that you're comfortable with to talk to. Not every channeler is going to be the right channeler for you.
Yeah, and not every self-guided hypnosis regression meditation is going to be exactly the right thing for you
Exactly.
either. You have to resonate.
Because yes,
Yeah.
sorry, you do. Because you sent me through yours.
Mhm.
And you should put that a link on this talk when you post this talk, because it will resonate for someone. Um, I listened to it and I tried to connect in and it couldn't connect, but I also listened to Mary Rodwell's and I couldn't connect with Mary's either. And then that's when I used both. I used both techniques in both regression sessions to form my own.
Yeah, and for me, I couldn't resonate with others' past life regression or hypnosis regression, and that's why I did the self-guided meditation for past life regression and hypnosis regression all in one,
Yeah.
with the shamanic and the hypnosis hybridized together.
Mm.
And that worked for me. But if
Yeah.
if you want more than a past life regression, just when you do that self-guided meditation, substitute the past life regression for an event that you want to see more information about. Just put it in your mind. I want to see this in this doorway and that. So, because it's geared toward past life, and just switch it up towards something else and you'll get potentially results with it.
Exactly. Well, I think that we will have to cut that off there.
Yeah.
And definitely, like I said before, we'll have to organise to have another chat. We're going on an hour and 40 minutes now, and I thank God my child has been really well and not started screaming and yelling at me.
Yeah.
But
So,
haven't even had myself some lunch yet.
yeah.
So we'll leave it there.
Yeah.
And thank you very much.
And thank you. And just for our audience, follow what resonates with you in terms of hypnosis regression or past life regression, whatnot. And if it doesn't, try something else for
Yeah.
sure.
And definitely put your session down in the as a link to your session, because it definitely helped me. Both yours and Mary Rodwell's helped, but I had to find something that suited myself. So definitely put it in there, because somebody else is going to resonate with it and they can work with it. It's a helpful guide.
Yeah, and also record, write down or record on just voice recorder if you're doing the self hypnosis regression or the past life regression through the self guided meditation. Just put a little recorder beside you to record it, your cell phone or voice recorder, whatnot. Or if you don't have that, just write down what you do remember after the
Yeah,
session.
immediately. Yeah, so immediately after, that's what I had to do. Immediately after I'd done the session, I would have to get up. I mean, it could be midnight. I could have started the session at 10 o'clock at night, and it could be midnight by the time I'm finished. I still get up and write it down. Even if you just briefly jot it down on your notes on your mobile phone, or, on a notepad or something, and then you can go back and it will spark, right, I remember this and this and this, and you can still put in key notes to what you remember.
Exactly, and that way you can
Mm.
refer to it later, and you have some working memory and maybe a timeline for what happened to you in the SSP acid experiences, the ET abductions, whatever you want to know about. It's there in your mind somewhere.
And if you do have specific dreams that jolt you, or, are just like a little bit, not right. For listeners, if it's something just doesn't feel right, and you can remember that dream, and there's specific things in that dream, write the dream down, because there could always be key things in that dream that has to do with being an experiencer.
Exactly, exactly. Memory recall even happens in your dreams, like in your dream state, or in
Yeah,
your waking state when you're actually not asleep, but you're having a dream sequence.
yeah,
Waking,
yeah. So
it's called a waking dream, a lucid dream,
yeah,
lucid
yeah.
dreaming.
And so it's good to write it down, and then if you feel that something dodgy is going on in your life, then you can reach out to the SSP group. And we're always pretty good, and we always sort of want to help. Well, not sort of want to help. We want to help people, to feel, I suppose, that they're not alone. That's the biggest thing that got me when I first started all this. Is am I like I knew I wasn't alone, because I knew there was hundred thousands of people out there having these experiences, but sometimes you feel very isolated, and they can make you feel isolated too. So, they can trigger people in your life to turn against you, to make your life hard. They can trigger your partners, they can trigger co-workers, family members, friends, your children, people you communicate with on a regular basis. And this has happened to me. I've had friends be triggered, and I've had to remove them out of my life because they bringing me down into a low density frequency, and just making things really hard for me in life, and bringing bullshit to my life, basically.
Yeah, and with
So be
me,
aware.
yeah, be aware of it. And for me, it was the gatekeepers of actually other SSP experiencers, whistleblowers, insiders that have called me out as being fake or false or being a
Yeah,
liar, just because they're out of competition. Because they don't want us sharing our stories and experiences, so they try to label us as fake. That it never happened
yeah.
to us when it did.
which which is really, really unfair, because we're all wanting the same thing. So when that happens, I say they're a triggered handler, so, or an activated handler. There's certain groups out there, as we know, we won't mention them, who
No.
are run by a coven of Draco. So they're basically scripted what they can and can't say, and they're still getting information out, and some of their information is still valuable, but there are more than just, there's more than just that group of people that are having these experiences. So, there's hundreds on the SSP page, some of them who haven't come out to the public, some who have, and they're getting ignored. But we have valuable information. I don't have the experience like yourself or Penny or, say, Tony Rodriguez or Kevin or Anthony Zender or Will, but at the end of the day, our information is still valuable. It's still disclosure, so it still needs to get out. So this is where I appreciate being able to speak to someone like yourself, or, like the guys on Reality Brief, where they are actually helping to get like you're all helping to get the information out that needs to be out.
Yeah, and it's SSP superiors and other SSP handlers who are also controlling other experiencers so you don't come
Yeah,
out, keep you in fear.
yeah,
So the
yeah.
gatekeepers.
Yeah, trying to make you doubt yourself and doubt the memories that you have. Well, our memories are just as valuable as what you remember, if not even more valuable.
Yeah, and also it's beyond just the Draco. There are actually other extraterrestrials that keep control of these covens and these cults. It's people. These
Yeah, and
extraterrestrials influence
and
people
I
the wrong way.
that's it. And I don't believe all the extraterrestrials are bad. I mean, like, there's been some people that say all these extraterrestrials are bad, all the ETs are bad. Well, if all the ETs are bad, they would have wiped the Earth out by now if they want bad things for us. I don't believe that they're all bad. I do know that there are some really, really horrible ones out there, like, not all Dracos or what, reptilians, but there are bad. There are bad ones, but not all of them are bad. We discussed this a little while ago, because somebody was saying that all ETs are bad. They're not. We know they're not.
Yeah, there are positive ones out there. There's far and few in between that there are positives, ones that are not
Yeah,
regressives. I mean,
they just want to leave us alone. They might be a little bit curious, but they don't want to destroy our world or destroy us. I mean, at the moment, the SSP experience is it's military. It's a lot of it's human,
Yeah, human run,
human
human owned,
abductions.
yeah, and human controlled. The brainwashing
Yeah.
and the mind control manipulation, MK Ultra Monarch programming, it's
Hmm.
running in the brain. So that's why these human cult classics are forming, and saying that love and light benevolent ETs are here to save us, or here to teach us a message about love and humanity and helping each other. Yet it's service. These ETs, the message is service to others, and yet it's service to self.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing that you've got to be able to keep, keep within yourself. You have to be service to others. You need to be service to others to help people, and that's what I find, which is really great through a lot of the SSP, is they're not all like the group on Facebook. Is they're not selfish. They're happy to talk. I actually got to Skype one of the SSP experiences the other day, and he was lovely, and he taught me how to cloak in a different form, because we have the ability to do that and cloak our energies and cleanse our energy bodies and clear negative energies and stuff like that. And it was really good. And we were supposed to only talk for 5 minutes on the phone, and we spent an hour on the phone, and so willing just to help and talk and heal. And it's healing to be able to get all this information out.
Indeed, I
Mm,
believe we're here for each other. There's a support group. The SSP group itself is for SSP veterans, experiencers, super soldiers, whatever whatever you choose to call yourself. You've obviously experienced something, and you need to work through it, or if
yeah,
not need to, might want to at some point, because it's based on trauma. It is based on traumatic experiences, PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. That's one of the biggest ones that I've seen the SSP assets have. Bad health,
yeah,
weird, unexplainable health issues. Not just one issue, but several layered one on top of it, one on top of another. Weird things happening in life, where you get sick, where you get bad stuff happen to you. That's not a really,
yeah,
sometimes that's not a coincidence, because there's something going on, SSP or
definitely.
ET abduction. So, if you're looking for trying to find answers, seeking questions and answers, there are a lot of SSP experiencers out there, and we're not just out to tell our own stories. We want to hear from you as well, and feel free
Yeah,
to share.
genuinely, and genuinely, we do want to help other people, because and also we're telling our story also to them so that they do feel comfortable. There's some in the SSP group that they've got this wow factor. Oh wow, did that really happen? And how could it happen though? And some of them want us, like, it's not all of them. Some of them that haven't really obviously, I suppose more are in it for the curiosity part of this, the experiences, and wanting just to, they're curious to see what's happening. And they're like, oh, wow. And then sometimes they can be a little bit negative and say some derogatory things to us. It's just triggering, trying to trigger us.
Yeah, and like, is this real? Did it really happen to you? Are you legit?
Yeah.
Who vetted
Oh,
you?
is this a real cloud? Yeah, it's a cloud. Or is this a real ship? Or are these your real photos? Or where did you get these photos from? Type thing. And we're not there to be made look like a dickhead. Basically, we're there to try and put our experiences across. We're there to help people. Not a lot of us. There's not a lot of confrontation in the SSP on the experiences page. So everyone knows when someone's trying to trigger a person. Everyone's relatively polite to each other.
Yeah, we don't tolerate trolls. Those are removed
Mm,
quickly.
yeah,
No
yep,
thanks. And disinfo agents, those are removed quickly as well. Not
yeah,
welcomed.
exactly.
So we don't tolerate
Okay.
bullying and bullshit.
No, we don't. Well, the admins don't, which is really appreciated, because when I posted the photo of the cloud, I thought I thought I'd cop a lot of slack for that. And then when you wrote your article, and it was so many people commented on it, and they were like, "Oh wow, that really does look like a craft." And so it's nice to know that we have the backup of the admins, and they don't post things that are inappropriate. So, or that they do monitor it, which is really good.
Yeah, I'm one of those admins, and I'm like, the minute somebody gets out of hand and calls you out as a liar or fake, we don't ask for evidence in this SSP
Yeah,
group. We don't require you to actually try to validate this. We try to listen to your story and just see what's there. And
yeah,
if you're bullying somebody else, disrespecting, calling them out a fake, a liar, or this or that, and generally saying this never happened to you, you're out of that group. That's it. You're out
yeah.
because you're
It's
not.
just keeping an open mind about absolutely everything. Have a bit of discernment, have a bit of respect for the people. Especially the vets, and having a bit of respect.
Exactly, and give people a chance to tell their story. If you don't, you're out of
Yeah,
the group. No
that's
malingering
exactly right.
others. And
Okay, I'm going to have to cut this one short. The children are starting to hassle me and write notes on their iPads. You've been on the phone for 2 hours. I'm sorry, I haven't got a life.
the best one. Don't bother to borrow other people's stories and experiences.
Exactly. If something resonates, then that's great. You can compare. But yeah, exactly. So, well, we'll leave that there. And
Yeah,
thank you very much
thank
for
you.
the interview. It's been a really nice chat. I actually sat outside in the cold the whole time, so I'm glad I didn't chitter. My teeth weren't rattling.
Yeah. So everybody tell your own truth, your own story.
Yep,
Don't borrow other people's experiences and stories.
yep.
No
Just be
plagiarizing.
honest.
Yeah, tell your
Be
own
honest.
story.
People aren't going to judge you for being honest.
Yeah, tell your own honesty, your own truth, and don't malinge other people for sharing their stories either.
Exactly. Okay, Ileana, thank you very, very much, and we will talk soon.
Yes, thank you so much, Rochelle. Our
Okay.
Australian SSB asset. Thank you for being on the show. Until next time.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.